You are watching this video because you volunteer or be voluntold to judge our spring contest in District 43. I believe everyone would agree with me that judges play a key role in our speech contests, especially to provide our contestants a very supportive and fair contest experience. Today, our trainer is Distinguished Toastmaster Larry Haug. Larry has been a member of Toastmasters since November 1989 and is a 5-time Distinguished Toastmaster. He has served as District 56 Chief Judge and has been a Chief Judge and a Contest Judge at any contest level in District 43 and 56. Larry has competed in every Toastmaster contest at the club, area, division, and district level. He was the District 56 Evaluation Contest winner in 1999 and the District 43 Table Topics Contest winner in 2013. It's my pleasure to have Larry join our District 43 education series.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. I welcome you all, and I hope that the information that I provide will help you to become a better judge so that only the best contestant is advanced at every level from club all the way through district. All of the contests this year will be virtual. We will be having the international speech and the evaluation contests. Now, the speech contest rulebook for 2021-2022 will be the governing document for all contests. So I encourage you to be familiar with the rulebook, especially about contestants and judges. Now, in the ballot submission, since we will be virtual, the way that the judge submits their ballots will be decided by the contest chair. So at the club level, they may do one thing. At the division level, you may do something else. So the contest chair at the beginning of the contest will brief the judges and decide how the ballots will be submitted. Now, judging is not evaluating. And the reason that we're having the seminar is that the judges being trained will be able to get the best contestant forward. And we are objective as a judge. We are not subjective. The number of judges in each contest is going to vary. As you can see on the slide, different levels of judges are required at each of the different levels. And one of the things that's very important for the judges, when you have your ballots, you do not have ties. You as a judge have to break your own tie. So if you have contestant 1 and contestant 2, you have rated them the same, you have to decide which one is better, 1 or 2. We have a tie-breaking judge at every contest, and the tie-breaking judge is used to break those ties. Now, to be a judge, you have to be eligible to be a judge. At each contest, you have to meet all the eligibility requirements. And there is a form that the chief judge will give you to sign. And it's the certification of eligibility and code of ethics. At a club contest, all you have to do is be a paid member of Toastmasters. That does not necessarily mean that you have to be a member of that club. As long as you're a member in Toastmasters, you can judge at any club contest. At the area, division, or district contest levels, you have to be a paid member for a minimum of 6 months. And you have to have completed a minimum of 6 speech projects in the Competent Communication Manual, or have completed levels 1 and 2 of any Toastmaster path. So this ensures that judges have at least a good familiarity with Toastmasters and what the requirements are. As a judge, you're not eligible to compete in the same contest during the same contest cycle. As an example, let's say you're judging an evaluation contest at a different club. Well, you cannot be an evaluation contestant at your club, so you're not eligible. So judges cannot be contestants. That's the bottom line. At the International Speech Contest, which you may attend and you may be picked to be a judge, you have to have at least an ATMB, Advanced Communicator Bronze, or have completed at least one path, and you have to have previously judged at the area, division, district, or semifinal level. I know that some of you may advance to the International Speech Contest and be asked to be a judge. So these are the requirements that you must have in order to be a judge at that level. The Judges' Code of Ethics. If you are going to be a judge, you have to be totally objective. You cannot worry about what the person who is competing, you have to get rid of biases. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And you do not worry about timing. If you can visualize where you sit, try to sit in the contestant area where you cannot see the timing lights or the timing flags. That way you don't worry about whether a contestant is overtime or undertime. So try to do that. I know in a virtual world, it may be hard to do since we are going to have the timer pin and you can see it on your screen, but try to push it off the screen or don't look at it. Maybe you can, in the virtual world, pin the speaker. So that's the only person that you can see on your screen. That's a good way to do it in the virtual world. You will look at the judging standards and only reveal your participation as a judge. Do not let anybody else see your judging form, how you awarded, and don't talk about it to anybody else. Don't say to your fellow members, hey, I voted for this person because I felt they were the best. Keep it quiet. You're not going to be a member of the same club as any contestant also when judging at the division, district, or final areas in the International Speech Contest. So for instance, if you are a judge at the division level, you should not be in the same club as any contestant. Now, these decisions are probably going to be made by the chief judge. So the chief judge is going to ensure that looking at the contestant list of where the contestants come from, that they're only going to pick judges that don't have association with that member and don't have any conflict of interest with any of the contestants that would cause bias. Now I'm going to cover these objective considerations. There's a lot of barriers to objectivity. And here's a list of most of them. First and last speaker's the best, and underdog, and have one area influence another area, either favorably or unfavorably. For instance, let's say somebody in a contest did very well with vocal variety. However, some of the other contestants didn't. So you might say, oh, well, that person was better at vocal variety, so I'm going to give him a better favor to elect him as the contestant. In a club contest, an area and division, you will see contestants that have competed over and over again. I've competed in many contests. Sometimes judges use that as a clutch. Oh, well, they competed in this contest and they didn't make it. Maybe I'll give them a better chance this contest. No, each contest stands on its own. Get rid of your prejudices and personal preferences. Unknown judging form is the best barrier to objectivity. If you're a judge, you really need to be familiar with the judging form, and this is one way to overcome those barriers. I'm going to go over the judging form in pretty good detail today and the criteria for judging. Be familiar with the Judges' Code of Ethics. When you sign that form, there's a Judges' Code of Ethics on that form, and you should be familiar with it and read it. Look at the individual contestant's performance. I use a plus-minus method, and I'm going to go over that when I talk about the form itself. This is something that a lot of judges over the years I've observed use this method, and it's a very effective method in picking winners. So let's look at the International Speech Contest ballot. This is what the ballot looks like. You'll see at the upper part of it the suggested point values: excellent, very good, good, and fair. But I'm going to focus on the three parts in the center. Content is 50%, delivery is 30%, and language is 20%. Now you notice on the right-hand side, I've only shown like 1, 2, 3 for contestants, because your contestants will be labeled on the top. This is what I encourage you to do. When the chief judge announces, or the contest chair or the Toastmaster, whoever announces the order of speaking, put the very first speaker to the extreme right of the ballot in the position number 10. Put the next contestant in position, let's say 8 or 7, depending upon how many contestants you have. Then as you start your judging, you're judging that very first contestant on the far right. When you are finished with that contestant, fold the paper over so you hide what you have selected on that contestant. This way, you're looking at not giving contestant number 2 rating against contestant number 1. You're being impartial about the contestants. So what I'm going to do is talk about how you judge each one of these levels. And this information, by the way, is on the back side of the judge's form. So read it, be familiar with it. Here's your content for the International Speech Content. It's in 3 parts: development of the speech, effectiveness of the speech, and the speech value. Speech development of any speech, no matter when you give a speech, the development of the speech. Does it have a good opening, an introduction? Does it have a good body that supports that introduction? Does it have a conclusion that goes back to the introduction? This is the whole structure of a speech. So when you're judging speech development, wait until the speaker gets through with those 3 parts before you give them a score for that part of speech development. The effectiveness, audience reaction. Now, sometimes you cannot see the audience reaction. If you're in a virtual room and you can't see what the audience is going to say. So what you have to do is look at, was I able to determine the speaker's purpose? Did it relate to that purpose? Was the audience interest held? This is hard to do in a virtual world, but do the best you can. If you have sound, maybe you can hear the background of people laughing. Well, we ask people to mute their mics during a speech contest. So effectiveness is hard to do in the virtual world, but you can use your best judgment for that. The value, did the speaker say something that's meaningful and original to you? Remember, you are the judge. You need to listen to what the speaker says and look at the ideas that the speaker presents. Now, here's where I use the plus minus. I'm looking at the judge's ballot. If I see they have an excellent introduction that says exactly what they're going to present, I'll give them a little plus mark under the speech development. If I feel their introduction was really not good, it didn't really come across as telling me what they were going to present, I might put a little minus sign there. And I'll look at the same for effectiveness and value. I'll put little plus signs or minus signs in there to let me know, okay, where is this speaker done? Did they have a good conclusion? I might give them 2 pluses if their conclusion matched their introduction. So what I'm doing with each contestant, I'm not looking at those numbers that they have over there, not in the beginning. I'm looking at listening to what the speaker says how the speaker does it and putting appropriate pluses and minuses in there so that I can judge each individual speaker the way that they have presented. The next section is their delivery. Effective communication. Was it sad, humorous introduction? Did they have body language? In the virtual world, I'm encouraging speakers to stand up, focus where your camera is so that you can see at least 70% of their body. So you can see effective hand gestures, facial gestures, body gestures. Look at the speaker and see where they're working. Now, effective use of the designated speaking area. In the virtual world, the speaking area is what the camera can see. That's it. So as a speaker, the contestant needs to focus on that, and you as a judge needs to look and see how does the speaker look on your screen. That's where pinning the speaker comes important, because now you have the speaker focused on your entire screen. The voice. This is vocal variety. We evaluate people on vocal variety in every speech they give. So look at it, listen, use your ears. Did they have some good vocal variety through their speech? Did they bring up a point and emphasize it with their voice? Or maybe use the soda voice when they want to point out something else? Was their voice easily understood? Did the speaker speak with enthusiasm? Did they show interest in the audience, made points to the audience with their gestures? Again, pluses and minuses. This is where I use this in part for their delivery. And finally, the last part is their language. Did they use a good choice of words in their speech? Did they really talk about what they were going to promote and give you, the judge, a clear understanding of what they're thinking in their word choice and their language? How is it said? Whether they use proper grammar and correct pronunciation, mastering the words being used. I have a problem sometimes with that. I grew up in Brooklyn, and sometimes my Brooklynese comes through in my language, and that can be detracting to somebody else. They might not understand my words. Our district is a big district. We cover Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Accents are different in all of our areas. So a good speaker has to be aware of their words so that their accents are easily understood by other people from other parts of our district. Sometimes this is hard to do. I have a hard time doing that sometimes. So again, pluses and minuses in the language. So when I'm done with these points in the speech, I should have pluses and minuses filled into that column. Now I look at the judging percentages and try to come up with some type of percentage that I feel overall the speaker did throughout his presentation, and judge that speaker with a percentage that I feel reflects that individual contestant. Then I'm finished with that. I fold the paper over. The next contestant is up, and I go all the way back to the beginning and do exactly the same thing. Hopefully, you as a judge, if you use this, only the best contestant will be forwarded to the next level. Let's look at the evaluation contest now. Same form, little different point values, different columns on the left to what you're judging against, the same numbers, use the same format. Put the first speaker way over to the right and the next to the left, depending upon how many speakers you have. The most speakers you will ever have, I think, in our division is probably going to be 6. If you have a club that has lots of members, maybe you have more than 6 people competing in any individual contest. But there's enough room on the ballot for you to adjust that. Here are the judging criteria in the evaluation contest. Analytical quality is 40% of your evaluation. How was it effective? Did they analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the speaker? Were the evaluator's comments clear and logical? Did they identify your strengths and weaknesses? Again, use the pluses. If the individual evaluator points out a speaker's strengths and really emphasizes that, put a plus sign in there. One of the things that I've noticed in evaluation contests, evaluators seem to at sometimes repeat what the speaker has said. This is not really an effective evaluation. If the speaker did something that was good, you can analyze that strength and give that strength out. So as a judge, look at how the evaluator presents their effectiveness of how that evaluator did it. Recommendation. This is a big part, 30%, almost as much as the analytical quality. Did the evaluator give recommendations to the speaker? For instance, let's say a evaluation contestant, his vocal variety wasn't very good. So in the recommendations, did the evaluator say, hey, by the way, I liked your speech. However, at times your vocal variety was a little weak. I suggest that this part of the speech, you could have given a better effective evaluation by increasing your volume at this specific point. So they should be practical and positive. They want the speaker to improve. We evaluate every speech at every club. Every time somebody gives a speech, there's an evaluator assigned, and recommendations are always there. If you look at the pathways thing, it says first part, what did the speaker do well? Second part, how well, what were some points where the speaker could improve? And the third part, challenges to the speaker. So between the quality and the recommendations, these are good points. 70% of your judging is on these 2 points. So these are where you want to focus your evaluation, your judging on. Technique. How did they put their comments and recommendations? Sensitive to the feelings and needs of the speaker. We do not want to use the words criticize or some negative type of word. And you should listen to the evaluator and see, did they use positive, encouraging words in their technique? That's 15%. The last part, summation. Remember, an evaluation is a speech. Therefore, it has an introduction, it has a body, and it has a conclusion. I don't know how many times I have been a judge at an evaluation contest, and this last 15% was never done. A lot of the times it's because of time. The evaluator gets wrapped up in the evaluation. All of a sudden they see the red light or the red flag come up and they, oh, I got to quit. And they miss the summation part. This is where you have 15%. And this is where a good evaluator, an excellent evaluator, is rated over a not so good evaluator. So your summation is very important as a judge when you're listening to an evaluator evaluate somebody else's speech. So focus on that too at the end, because that can be the difference between first place and second place and third place. These are your ballots. Remember, a judge has no ties. So you put in your first place, your second place, and your third place. You have to pick those 3 places. You look at your pluses and your minuses, your percentages that you gave, and then you pick which one is the best. You may wind up with the same percentages at the bottom of your ballot. And you say, oh, what do I do? Go back to where you judge those people and say, okay, content was higher in this person than in this person. Therefore, I will pick that person as first and the next as second. You must sign your ballot and you have to print your name. Again, in the virtual world, your contest chair is going to determine how you send that information to the chief judge. First place, second place, third place. At a club contest, it might be just a chat. Otherwise, it might be a poll. I don't know how you're going to do that, but again, this is where the chief judge comes in and says, this is how I want you to send me your ballots. If you are picked as the tie-breaking judge in a contest, now I put the ballots for the evaluation contest and international speech, but they're identical. The only thing that changes is the word on top. As a tie-breaking judge, you must rate every single contestant. Therefore, you have to pick every single contestant all the way down the line. And then it's up to the chief judge, if there's a tie, to look at the tie-breaking judge's ballot and pick the winner of any first, second, or third place. Protests. We can't have protests in any contest, but only judges or contestants can initiate a protest. And there's only two criteria for a protest: eligibility and originality. You must make your protest available to the chief judge or the contest chairperson. So as a judge, you can indicate a protest. You can send a text or call the chief judge or the chairperson and say, hey, I think this contestant was not eligible, or I've heard what he said before by somebody else. That's originality. Now, before a contestant can be disqualified on the basis of originality or by referencing somebody else's speech, the contestant must be given an opportunity to respond to the voting judges. So you are a panel. So if a contestant is protested against originality, the contestant has the right to appear before all of the judges and say, okay, this is what I did, and this is my justification for originality. So they get to prove whether or not they use somebody else's speech or somebody else's reference. For instance, it doesn't have to be another contestant. It could be they referred to some other thing, maybe somebody's quote, before they identified the quote of who it was for. They used a quote from somebody else that they took on their own. So again, a majority of the judges must concur in a decision to disqualify. Eligibility, that's up to the contest chair or the chief judge to determine whether that contestant was in fact not eligible to compete. And there's a whole list of rules in the judge's rule book. That's why you as a judge should be familiar with the judge's rule book about eligibility requirements for any contest. In case of eligibility, the contestant is privately notified of their disqualification by the contest chair. In the case of disqualification based on originality, the judges would do that, and then the chief judge would make the announcement that an individual contestant was disqualified on the basis of originality without identifying the contestant. So those are the rules for protest. I hope that this presentation has given you enough information for you to become a very effective judge. And so the rule is we want the best contestants to advance from club to area to division to district, and in case of the international speech, all the way to the top 10 winners in the international speech contest. Thank you. And if you have any questions, my information is on the first slide. that's in the recording, my email address and phone number. Feel free to give me a call at any time or send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer your questions. Thank you very much. I'll return control to Lu Zhang, the Program Quality Director for District 43. Lou?
Thank you so much, Larry. Here's a question for Larry. If I've never judged before and I am going to judge for the first time, what is your advice for our first-timer judge?
Familiar with the judging form. That's it. Just be familiar with the judging form. Learn, read how you look at it. It's not an evaluation, it's a judging. So you look at the form at each individual section in the form and judge based on that section only as you're going through person giving a speech. So be very familiar with that. And again, I encourage everybody, start at the club level, judge at the club level. And even if you are not selected as a judge, pick the form and judge yourself. In other words, fill out the form as if you were a judge, and then look at the winners and see how far you were. For instance, let's say we're at a club and there's 4 judges in the club contest and you're not one of them. So you use the form and you fill out the form. So now the winners are announced: first place, second place, third place. How did you pick? Did you pick the first, second, and third place? If not, then go back to your judging form and see how did I miss that? How did I miss the first person or the second person? If you're spot on where you pick 1, 2, 3 and the winners were 1, 2, 3, then you are learning how to be a better judge. I mean, we all start being a judge the very first time. And it happens. And so at the club level is where you learn how to be an effective judge.
What you said, Larry, got my mind thinking I need to go back and read the rules, because I thought I have read the rules and understood them, but I see now I have missed quite a bit. So with this presentation, I think those of us who are seriously interested in learning how to be a judge, you will help them.
Right.
And I will go back and read the contest rules and do what you just said. I will do a sample ballot and see how I do. And that's good information for those of us who really want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, for this informative training session. And everyone, if you have any question, please reach out to Larry. Thank you for watching this training video.